Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone here to Harmony Hall tonight. This is another in the series of the Sun's local political debates. My name is Chris Scott. I'm the enterprise editor here at the Sun. I'll be serving as a panelist with one of my colleagues. We're happy to be here tonight. I'm going to turn it over now to the moderator for the evening, Mary Jo Griffin. She works in the public affairs staff at Middlesex Community College, and she's a fine friend of the newspaper. So, Mary Jo?
Thank you, Chris. Now that you've taken half of my time, no, I'm just kidding. Good evening, I'm Mary Jo Griffin. I'm the Director of Public Affairs at Middlesex Community College. We are here in another another debate in the Lowell Sun series of debates. This is the 36th Middlesex District seat. We are here in Dracut at Harmony Hall, which is run by volunteers of the Dracut Historic Society. It's a beautiful building. Thank you for having us and hosting us. Representing the Lowell Sun this evening is the Enterprise editor, Christopher Scott, and with Chris is the digital editor, Jennifer Paluzzi. Our candidates this evening are Democratic incumbent, Colleen Garry, and the Republican challenger, Cathy Richardson. And I am Mary Jo Griffin. I would like to go over a few of the rules. First, could I ask that all cell phones be turned off or on vibrate? You're welcome to take photos, but please don't have your phones ringing. Each of the candidates, Colleen and Cathy, you'll be given 2 minutes to answer a question posed to you, and then you'll have 1 minute to rebut. There are no opening statements, and each candidate will be given the opportunity for a 2-minute closing. We're going to do a coin toss to determine who will be the first question, if I can do this right. I didn't know I was going to have to do this kind of stuff. Okay, heads or tails? Colleen? Heads. Heads. It's tails. So, Cathy, you get the first question, which means, Colleen, you can choose to give the closing first, or you can defer and give your closing last.
I'll do it last.
You're going to do it last, okay. All right. Let me introduce our 2 candidates this evening. The Democratic incumbent nominee is Colleen Garry. She's a Dracut native and a Dracut High School graduate who has served as the incumbent state representative in the 36th Middlesex District seat for 20 years, since 1994. Prior to her election to the Massachusetts House of Representatives, Ms. Garry was an aide to Representative John Cox, who represented Dracut and part of Lowell. Colleen Garry is also an attorney and who has a part-time practice here in the town of Dracut. The 36th Middlesex District is Dracut and Tyngsboro. The Republican nominee, Cathy Richardson, is a lifelong Dracut resident as well, and also a graduate of Dracut High School. She's a mother and a grandmother. She is professionally employed as a clinical therapist, holding a master's degree from Boston University. She grew up on and still manages her family's livestock farm, the Richardson Farm, here in Dracut. In May of 2010, Ms. Richardson was elected to the Dracut Board of Selectmen. She has served as the board's chair since May of 2012. Welcome, both of you. So having put down the ground rules, I will be timing the 2 minutes for each question, and I will ask you to please stick to the 2 minutes. And why don't we have Jennifer Paluzzi ask the first question, please. And the question is going to Ms. Richardson.
All right. Of the 4 ballot questions, which do you believe will have the most far-reaching impact on the state, and how would you vote on that question?
So welcome everyone for coming. Thank you so much for being here. The ballot questions I think are extremely important this time around, and I want to say as a candidate for state representative, the reason I'm running is I do believe that I'm very worried about our future. I want to do something about it, and this ballot question is a perfect example. So given that, I think the most far-reaching effect would be the question 1. That is the one in which we have the opportunity to repeal the automatic gas tax. That in particular affects every aspect of our daily living in terms of food prices, any vehicle prices, anything along those lines. So let's talk a little bit about the gas tax, because I do think that's very important. I do have some facts and figures to share with all of you. When it comes to the gas tax and many other issues, the difference between myself and my incumbent couldn't be any clearer. She voted to raise the gas tax automatically forever. I gathered hundreds of signatures to get question 1, this very question, on the ballot, and I'm fighting to repeal the automatic gas tax. As your state representative, I'll never vote for an automatic tax. Dracut and Tyngsboro deserve better than taxation without representation. The people of Massachusetts and the original colonies fought against this very factor more than 200 years ago, and we shouldn't have to fight it again. The only person who has distorted my opponent's record on this issue is my opponent. She did vote for the automatic gas tax, not just once, but twice, and now she's trying to say that that's not true. It's bad enough to raise taxes, but let's be honest about how we did vote. We need to manage the state budget, eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, and get our priorities in order. The state doesn't have a revenue problem, it has a spending problem. Unlike my opponent, I will not vote to spend money that could be used on roads and bridges on items like the $1 billion expansion to this convention center in Boston. Okay, thank you.
Well, that was quite an introduction. I guess gloves are off. I would like to say that, in fact, I did vote against the indexing. I am on record in at least 3 different votes voting against it. What, unfortunately, Ms. Richardson doesn't understand is sometimes you have to vote yes or no on an issue that may be the best of 2 evils. I did, in fact, vote for the transportation bond because it allowed for $800,000 to come back to the community of Dracut. And Ms. Richardson had no problem accepting the $800,000. And if we want to talk about distorting records, I think it's very important for people to know that the Republican Party is trying to buy this election for a Republican seat. $17,000 has been purchased by Ms. Richardson's friends. We have a nice photo of her with Rick Green. You all saw those mailings going out, the 5 mailings from Mass Fiscal Alliance, AKA Republican loser Rick Green, who couldn't take over the Republican Party. He not only supported this, and they have spent over $14,000 in mailings to this district, and I'm going to be looking out to see if the one that just came out was actually recorded or not, but he and his friends also donated to Ms. Richardson personally $500 and $100 and another $500. And here, the same person, you can see with Ms. Richardson distorting my vote, trying to buy this election, multimillionaires trying to buy the election. They have nothing to do with Dracut. They should stay out of Dracut politics. We need to worry about what happens in this community, not how the Republican Party gains seats in the legislature. It is a fraudulent effort that they have put forward. They've sent out these mailings, and they have trying to deceive the voters of this district. I did not vote for it. And to be honest, let's be honest, it's only eliminating the indexing. It's not eliminating the gas tax. So if people think that they're voting for this and it's going to eliminate the gas tax, you're wrong. Another deceptive action.
Time to rebuttal, Mrs. Richardson.
I do. And so there was a lot of things in that statement that my opponent just said. And what I want to be very clear is the process of the gas tax. The automatic gas tax was included in the $500 million transportation bond bill that did not just include the gas tax. It in fact included the cigarette increases, it included the R&B increases, it included ways that the utilities are changes in ways utilities are classified, and reinstatement of tolls on the Mass Pike. This was a huge tax bill package. And in fact, Representative Garry did support that bill. It did go through, and they took all those taxes in one fell swoop, put that through. She did in fact vote for the amendments that were specific to that package thereafter. However, when the veto override went through, she did vote for the veto override. And then on top of adding insult to injury, after that we had to go as a grassroots effort to get question 1 on the ballot, to get 100,000 signatures or more. I was one of the people out there getting those signatures, and we did get it on the ballot for the people of Massachusetts.
Okay, let's move forward, Chris.
Thank you, Mary Jo. The new town manager in Dracut, Mr. Duggan, has made economic development in the limited space that Dracut has a key priority early in his administration. What can the local state representative do to ensure that Mr. Duggan is successful in that venture?
Colleen.
I would be glad to work with Jim Duggan. We've already talked about numerous things that we're going to go forward on. Obviously, one of the areas that they're looking for is the contaminated Exxon property and trying to redevelop that.
That's on Broadway?
On Broadway Road. We will be working with DEP to get that cleaned up as quickly as possible. We have been working, we've got $66 million to redo the rotary out of Methuen that will help to make the access to our community easier and safer. We have put in more money, $6 million has come into Arlington Street. That's another large road in our community. Lakeview Avenue, I received the money for that. So we can continue to bring the infrastructure in. We continue to bring the sewer rate relief fund monies in for sewer and water and expansion wherever is necessary. And certainly my record on behalf of the Board of Community Businesses is important, and it is something I fight very hard for, and that's why I've been endorsed by the National Federation of Independent Businesses, because I support local business. I am a local business. I have a business in town.
Ms. Richardson?
I'm glad we have a chance to talk about Mr. Duggan. I'm thrilled to have that as one of our accomplishments, certainly my accomplishment, one that I'm most proud of, bringing Mr. Duggan to this town. And one of the things I heard loud and clear from the residents when I was talking about the search committee, talking about formulating the search committee, talking about bringing a new town manager, was the fact that people were very interested in economic development. There's a number of things we can do on the town level, certainly with the TIF incentives that we've been talking about. We are, I think many of you saw in the paper that we're looking to update and take care of properties that are in disarray. Whether or not their taxes are paid up, we're looking for prime areas that are subject to commercial development, and those were in the paper just recently here a couple of days ago. So there are certainly many, many things we can do, but I think there's a double side of this. In other words, economic development is so crucial to a town like Dracut, where 90% of our tax base is residential. We need to look at local aid and how to get local aid back into this town. That is crucial to the success of Dracut and Tyngsboro. And what we need to do, this is a combination effort to further develop economically, but also to increase local aid money that is coming back to Dracut and Tyngsboro specifically.
Do you have a rebuttal?
I actually do, and we have funded an economic development bill that is going to help with innovation and innovative economy and growing it here in our community adjacent to the University of Massachusetts. I think it's very important. Local aid is at the highest it's been in years. I don't know where Ms. Richardson is getting her facts, but they're wrong. And I think it's funny that she proclaims one of her greatest achievements is getting a town manager. By the record that I see, they talked about getting a consultant in February of 2011, and Mr. Duggan started May 4th, 2014. So it did take them 3 years to get a town manager. I don't really call that quite efficient or effective, and they had to expend $1,500 more than they needed to during that time to get it. So I look forward to working with Jim Duggan. I've known him for many, many years. I think he's done a great job for the community, and I look forward to continuing to serve with him as state representative.
All right. The next question, Jennifer?
Do I get a rebuttal?
No.
Sure.
Well, I didn't get a rebuttal to the first one.
Let's move forward. Jennifer?
Many politicians were very vocal and very visible during the recent market basket standoff, drawing some criticism. Did either of you attend or participate in any of the rallies? And please explain your decision.
Cathy, this is
I actually did not attend the rallies per se because at the time I was working and could not afford those times to go. But I was very vocal to the folks that work there and to people that asked me about my support for the employees, and I think they did the right thing. I think, quite frankly, that was a time when people saw that a grassroots effort, people that stood on principle, did the right thing. This is about being on principle and knowing that that you were doing the right thing for the very people that you serve. The people that were on the front lines, out there striking, were in fact doing what they felt was right, and I'm thrilled that they prevailed.
Ms. Garry?
I was not able to attend the rallies, but I did send a letter of recommendation for him to the board back even before they let him go in the first instance when they were holding signs outside the board meetings. And again, I was one of the first ones to sign out with Barry Feingold in support of the protest. And to be honest, that was one of the things that I was looking forward to most, was to get back into Market Basket myself with my family to shop. The workers there deserved what they got, and so did Mr. Demoulas.
Chris?
To
It's to Ms. Gary.
Ms. Garrett. Colleen, what do you feel is the biggest difference between yourself and your opponent?
I think the biggest difference is I look at every vote individually. I don't look as to whether it's a Democratic idea or a Republican idea. I look at the broader aspect of it, whether it's a tax increase or not. I look at the best benefit of this district, Dracut and Tyngsboro. I have voted against leadership 25% of the time in this last term. I have no problems joining forces with the Republican Party, and frankly, a lot of them think that I should be on their side. But I think that the real difference is I'm willing to go and look at each individual issue pertaining to my district, and I'm not going to vote party line. And I believe that Ms. Richardson, and that's something, you know, she's a devout Republican, and she stands by that. And but I am very concerned that party line will get in the way.
Ms. Richardson?
So, and you are right, Colleen, I am a devout Republican, and for that very reason, I'm very proud to say that. I believe the government needs to stay out of our lives. We need smaller government, we need less spending. We don't have, again, a revenue problem on Beacon Hill, we have a spending problem. One of the clear differences between myself and my opponent would be that I would in fact vote for the reforms that the Republicans put on the floor last year that my opponent voted against. Let me give you a few examples of those. She didn't vote, she voted against a 24-hour time period to review the bills. She voted against putting committee votes online. She voted against equal two-party representation on the Ethics Commission. She voted against two-thirds majority to spend money out of rainy day funds or any bills that require raising taxes. And I would assure the voters that when we do have the opportunity to put those back on the floor, I will be voting for all those reforms. I think we need to start the reform process on Beacon Hill. It is the only way to rein in spending, the only way to get local aid increased and come back to our communities, which we desperately need. And I know as a selectman, I've watched the town suffer and deal with very, very difficult decisions in terms of hiring and what we can do on a public safety and educational level for the benefit of our children and citizens, given the current state of local aid, which is abysmal in my opinion.
Ms. Gary, do you rebuttal?
I do. You know, it's really funny to listen to people who have never served on Beacon Hill, and they think that whether the votes are recorded or not, and I would think that's the pot calling the kettle black about things being open and recorded. The fact of the matter is, these things don't matter to the people of the district. What matters are the reforms like EBT reform and welfare reform and unemployment reform and the things that affect the people of this district. And that's where I've been. And the real thing, and the thing that really gets me, is Ms. Richardson stood there yesterday cutting the ribbon for Dracut High School when she voted against the tax increase for it. It's a hypocritical aspect. It's not financially prudent because we got 63% reimbursement from the state for a project that needed to be done for our children, for our community, that 73% of the community voted for. And she, because she's a Republican against taxes, said, no, I don't think so. But she was glad to stand there and cut the ribbon.
Thank you.
Do I have a rebuttal for that?
No. Jennifer?
Just a quick follow-up question,
Sure,
because
okay.
it's timely.
All right.
Colleen, you talked about breaking with leadership, I think 25% of the time.
Right.
The speaker's reputation has clearly been damaged due to the probation scandal. If he seeks the speaker's post again, would you support him? And make it quick, and then...
He has not been indicted. He has not been in any kind of investigation as far as I know. We are innocent until proven guilty. And the issue is patronage. And I would like to know from my opponent is if she loses and Charlie Baker wins, will she decline a job in the Baker administration?
Well, I want her to answer on Bob DeLeo.
So the question
If
is...
you're elected,
Yeah.
and the speaker seeks to be speaker again, would you support him, given what you know about his involvement in the probation scandal?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
The
Let's
current
move on.
speaker is an unconvicted co-conspirator. So basically, in my estimation, I think mostly people would read that as being guilty but not going to jail.
Thanks. Next question.
All right. Jennifer, your question is to Ms. Richardson.
All right. In Massachusetts, we've had a Democratic majority in the state legislature. legislature, excuse me, your opponent has quite often sided with the Republicans over the Democrats on many roll call votes. Do you think that that affects the amount of funding that the area gets? And since you are a Republican, will that affect the funding that this area will get if you get into office?
So a couple of things. One is that I believe that my opponent has in fact voted with the Republicans on several occasions. Not enough in my estimation. And I will tell you that that the reason why, I'm just going to show you a brief slide here. We talked a little bit about local aid, and I think that's why this is so important. This is such an important debate here. The budget has grown in the past 8 years $10 billion. It took us 200 years to get to 27. When Governor Patrick took over, the budget has grown by $10 billion in 8 years. Local aid in 2008 was $1,300,000. I'm sorry, $1,300,000,000. Currently, it's $900 million. It is a $400 million decrease since 2008. As you can see, local aid is less than $1 billion out of a $37 billion budget. That, in my estimation, is absolutely abysmal.
Ms. Garrett?
Well, $10 billion, I believe that's about 7% increase per year. And Ms. Richardson touts her fiscal conservatism, but in fact, she has done nothing to lower the taxes of the community of Dracut. In fact, if we want to talk about an automatic tax increase, Prop 2.5, unless she asks the town manager to do a budget without that 2.5% in there, she has supported an automatic tax. The reality of it is local aid is not the only thing that state government has to pay for. Medical insurance, the inflation rate is over 13%, and a large portion of our budget goes to Medicaid and caring for those elderly who are in nursing homes and so forth. The other thing with her little slide is she's not including Chapter 70, that is over $4 billion that are coming back to the communities. It also doesn't include the Chapter 90, which is $800,000 for the town of Dracut this year and almost $400,000 for the town of Tyngsboro. So it's nice to say local aid is this amount, but put it all together, and it's much more than that, but she doesn't have a realistic view of what state government provides on a long-term basis. And the fact of the matter is, in the town of Dracut, the percentage of our budget has gone up, and it has gone up just as much as the state budget has, in percentage-wise.
Ms. Richardson, do you have a rebuttal?
I do. So my reaction to that is, in fact, it's not good enough. Local aid needs to come back to the towns and cities. We all struggle. All municipalities are struggling with staffing. It's a huge impact on public safety. Tyngsboro alone has 4 school systems that they, in fact, deal with. It is a huge impact on their bridges and their roads. They have 4 school systems worth of buses going over their roads and bridges in Tyngsboro and going over culverts that at some point will become dangerous if not dealt with. And the fact is, there is a need to increase Chapter 90 to that particular community. We talk about Chapter 90, Chapter 70 coming back, and the reality is that the amounts are not sufficient. Let's look at lottery. Let's look at the lottery for a minute. We had a $75 million surplus or unexpected revenue in the lottery. Lottery was supposed to come back to education. Remember way back when lottery was all going to be for education? We were sold on that. $75 million. The governor was gracious enough to give us $25 million back and kept $50 in case he needs it. That $50 million would very clearly take care of the $400,000 transportation deficit in our school system. There was no excuse for that.
Your time is up. All right, Chris Scott, would you ask Ms. Garrett?
Okay. State reps and senators have garnered a fair amount of criticism for taking the per diem, the gas reimbursement, to commute to and from the State House. If you're reelected, would you pledge to give that money to charity rather than using it for yourself?
Actually, Chris, I'm glad you say that you asked this question because, again, Ms. Richardson is wrong. I actually stopped taking that last August 2013. August 16th was the last day I took it. I thought about it some more, and I thought about the gas tax going up, and then decided not to take it. So it's still in the coffers of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. What people need to understand, for my per diem, it's $26 a day. For the people in Western Mass, it's over $100 a day. This was the equalizing effort of folks for years back, so that any average citizen could afford to go to Boston to serve as state representative. Not only the rich would be able to do so. So their travel and their meals and so forth would have been covered by this amount. The reps in Boston get $5 a day. So it is not that everyone gets $100 a day or something like that. It's by your distance from the district, from the State House. And for those out in Western Mass, they go through a couple of cars a year.
Why did you give it up?
Why didn't I give it up?
No, why did you?
Because I started thinking after we did the gas tax, I started thinking, even though I voted against the gas tax, I decided that I was not going to do it any longer.
Kathy?
Ms. Richardson?
I commend you for that. I think after 20 years, though, that's sad that for 19 out of those 20 years you got paid to go to work. And I don't know anyone else in the Commonwealth that gets paid to go to work. That to me is something that needs to be dealt with directly upon going to Beacon Hill. I think there's several of us that would like to have that eliminated. No one in this that I know of gets paid to go to work except for state representatives. When you have 6 to 7% of your town unemployed, it is absolutely inconceivable to me that you would continue to take money to go to work when 6 to 7% of your town is unemployed. We have 25% of our children in the school system on free lunch, and that means that we have a great number of people in this town, both here and in Tyngsboro, that are struggling to make ends meet every day, trying to figure out whether they have to pay for food, medicine, or other things that are necessities, and getting paid to work is just another slap in the face to the taxpayers.
Ms. Garry, would you like to talk about that?
I do. I really think it's very funny that gasoline would be an issue with Ms. Richardson. She has collected from her campaign accounts hundreds of dollars in gasoline. I think it's ludicrous. People donate to a campaign to help you buy ads and so forth. $10 at Friendly Barry's to do door-to-door? Really?
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 Because I do door-to-door, Colleen, and
Yeah.
I reimburse the volunteers that drive for me.
You need a driver to do that? I mean, this is crazy. Out in Westford, you bought gas in Westford. Is that in the district now too?
That would be
I think it's
Tyngsboro, Colleen.
outrageous,
That's right by
and I
Tyngsboro.
think that, I already told you, you were wrong about the per diem, and you should admit that you were wrong about it. You got false information, and I do not accept it any longer, and as I said, it's a balancing so people, the average citizen, can afford to serve in the legislature and travel back and forth, sometimes hundreds of miles a day.
The western part of the state is
That-
much
that-
different than
Thank you.
We have rules
Dracut,
here?
Mass.
Thank you. We're going to move on. Jennifer, if you could ask the next question to Ms. Richardson.
All right, let's talk about a different kind of gas. If you're elected, will you take a leadership role based on your community's views on the proposed Tennessee natural gas pipeline?
Absolutely. That's been one of the things that the residents here have been very concerned about, both in Dracut and Tyngsboro. I just was over at Sequoia Drive recently, and of course those folks are going to have that pipeline go right through their backyards. We've got many people here in Dracut that are directly infected and are very concerned about their property. What I'm going to tell you is with the natural gas pipeline, because there is so much information, as chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I suggested to the board that we join the Northeast Coalition, Municipal Coalition for Pipelines, because that is a group of folks from all the communities in the area that are being affected, where we can gather information, we can get the information to residents. There is clearly a multitude of aspects of this project. I am not convinced, as a selectman here in Dracut and chairman of the board, that we need the pipeline. I think what I've done basically is asked Cynthia Armstrong to come down from Portland, Tennessee Natural Gas. She came down and gave a very good presentation, I thought, at the selectmen's meeting. It's an option that does not necessitate new construction. There is a process by Spectra Natural Gas that also is increasing capacity. There are a number of green initiatives in the state that people are trying to adhere to, which will offset some of the need for new natural gas. I am not convinced that the pipeline, in fact, is needed. I'm fearful that we are going to build a pipeline we are going to not need 20 and 30 years from now, and it's going to be a huge problem ecologically, and we're cutting across conservation lands that the taxpayers have already put aside with tax dollars for preservation. What we would like to do on the board is send a letter to our legislators, including Colleen, if she continues to be that, to ask the process to slow down. There are a number of junctures where we need to have environmental impact information being given. We need to have more discussions, and we have to have more influence on the route of the pipeline, and hopefully have it go through existing routes and not people's backyards that are going to negatively affect their property values.
Ms. Garry?
I agree that it's a very important issue in this community. That's why I have been working to gather information on behalf of the district. I was able to get the Kinder Morgan folks to come out and talk to the people of Dracut and answer the questions firsthand, unlike Ms. Richardson, who did not allow the individuals to have their questions answered when they came before the Board of Selectmen. I feel that you have to work with people. I do not have enough evidence at this point. It's still before FERC. There will be many opportunities for conversation, and at this point, it's way too early to make a yes or no decision on it. I have been dealing with my local colleagues from the western side of Massachusetts through our area, and we are working together as a unit to make sure that we get the information, that we have all of the information before we make a determination on it. But certainly, I will be following the will of the voters here in Dracut and Tyngsboro as to their wishes on the project.
Ms. Garry, do you have a rebuttal for that?
I do. And so what I'd like people to do is to understand that there is a ton of information that we've asked to be put on the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments website. If people have any questions about it, they can go to that website. There is a multitude of information. As chairman, I felt it was very important to get that information in an area where people have access to that information easily, so please feel free to go to that. I will continue to fight to get information for our residents as your chairman, and I will continue to try to figure out ways that we can influence the route that is going to have less detrimental impact to our property owners right here in Dracut and Tyngsboro.
Thank you. Christopher Scott, your next question is to Representative Garry.
Colleen, we were talking before the debate. I believe you were first elected in 1994, correct?
Right.
That's a long time. At what point do you feel someone in public office like yourself loses his or her effectiveness? And how do you plan on, remaining effective and active in a new term if you're reelected?
Well, I may have served 20 years, but I'm still young enough. Certainly, I think that we have seen the dedication of people like Jim Maselli, former late Mike Ruane, who served for many, many years, even despite cancer. I think that experience does count. Relationships that you develop over the years do matter. The fact that I can pick up the phone and get people on the phone immediately, more than a freshman representative could do so. I even go back to some of the chairmen were freshman reps when I worked for John Cox. So I have the knowledge, I have the experience. I think I will be ready to step down when I don't love it anymore. And I still love it. I still love working on behalf of the community of Dracut and Tyngsboro. I still have the respect of the voters here in Dracut and Tyngsboro. And I know that I will feel it's right when the time is right. But I don't think an age limit and I don't think a term limit is proper. It's when you can't do the job any longer, and I'm not ready to retire yet.
Ms. Richardson.
So I think at this point, when we're talking about term limits are inherent in the electoral process. I do believe there comes a time when people need to step aside, when people are doing jobs for a very long time. Sometimes the danger, and we see that even on the municipal level, the job becomes the person, and it's very hard to make difficult decisions regarding those positions once people are in it for a very, very long time. The Constitution is written in such a way that a checks and balances system is very present and very real. The Constitution is as real as it is today as it was the day it was written. Checks and balances are in place. There is a process that the forefathers, our founding fathers, never meant for politicians to make a career out of their time on Beacon Hill or in Washington. The difference between politicians and politicians like to talk, public servants listen. And at some point, you need to understand and respect the Constitution and the forefathers that wrote it. The forefathers did not expect that we would have career politicians at every level of government, from local to Washington itself.
So I'd like to follow up a question. Do you have an end date if you were to get reelected?
I'm 54. I hope to retire by the time I'm 62 and enjoy my children and my grandchildren.
Do I get a rebuttal?
Sure.
Certainly, I think that as I said, there is an expertise and an experience and a knowledge that comes with experience. I think that I have only rejuvenated in the last 2 years. I have actually expanded my accessibility to not only having the office here in the district, but also have now gone out to local businesses every Wednesday morning and have my coffee with Colleen. I have gone out and done my crafting with the seniors to have an informal opportunity to meet with seniors at the Council on Aging's. And I continue to have office hours at the Council on Aging's, the senior housings in the district, and at the library. So I'm not getting older, I'm getting better.
All right. Next question. Jennifer, your question is for Representative, Representative Garry.
All right. Considering you're both lifelong Dracut residents, for Tyngsboro voters who are going to the polls, the question in many of their minds may be, well, what exactly is it for us? Which of you would be most likely to understand and address the most pressing issues facing Tyngsboro, and how would you answer them?
This is for Ms. Richardson, I apologize.
Oh,
It's for you.
Yes.
So in regards to Tyngsboro, I have attended selectmen meetings there, and I have formulated some relationships with folks in Tyngsboro. I think the Tyngsboro voters are very similar to the Dracut voters. We're looking for tax, we want to rein in taxes and spending at Beacon Hill. This is not unlike Dracut. They want to rein in taxes and spending. We want to stop the corruption and the scandals that seem to emanate from Beacon Hill on a regular basis. We want to talk about being able to bring back more local aid. I brought up the example of Tyngsboro, in fact, with their road situation with the 4 school systems and the buses that are up and down those roads every day. Both Dracut and Tyngsboro specifically, are border towns that would probably benefit from more lottery money coming back to them, given that we actually, in fact, get more revenue as border towns from the lottery. It hasn't worked for me in terms of buying a ticket in New Hampshire and Massachusetts at the same time. But some people like to do that and go across the borders and buy tickets in both states. We should get maybe more lottery revenue back to the states, because we actually create more revenue on the lottery basis from both towns.
Thank you.
I may be mistaken, but I don't think Mrs. Richardson stayed here her entire life. I think I'm the only lifelong resident here in the campaign. In regards to Tyngsboro, I have the 20 years of dedication to them. They know that I have fought very diligently for the renovation of the bridge, for the temporary bridge, which was millions of dollars. We were able to get that in to keep the flow going over the river. I have supported the businesses, I've supported the charities, the school projects. Recently was able to work with Senator Donahue to get a SBAB situation clarified with the Lakeview School, so that they now will be able to apply for another school building project. So certainly, I think the folks in Tyngsboro know where my heart is. It is my adopted home, and I have been in this district my entire life and love the district.
Ms. Richardson, do you have a rebuttal to that?
So I was gone for about 4 or 5 years when I had cattle, and we took the cattle out to the Midwest. So out of the 54 years, I've been gone for about 4. So my farm has been here my whole life. My family has been here my whole life. So I, in fact, feel like I am a lifelong resident, with the exception of those 4 years. And I am, in fact, the only one of us who has a child in the public school system. Both of my boys graduated from Dracut High School, and I have a very committed person. I'm a committed person to quality education in this town. I enjoy my relationship with Dr. McNamara and the school committee. I think the past 2 to 3 years we've been able to actually gel some of those relationships, and I think that the forming of the tri-board has been very helpful. With Dr. McNamara's help, we've been able to formulate the tri-board, and with the finance committee, the school committee, and again, this is all under an effort to enhance Jim Duggan's new town manager position here at the town.
Thank you. All right, the next question, Chris Scott, is to Representative Garry.
Okay, bear with me, there's a little wind up here. Colleen, you recently returned criticism made by Ms. Richardson regarding state increases that have happened on your watch, state tax increases that have happened on your watch in the House, by pointing out that, quote, Dracut property owners have seen their tax rate rise by 22.7% since Cathy Richardson joined the Board of Selectmen in 2010, and posed the related question, what cuts has Ms. Richardson made to actually lower our taxes? So our question tonight is specific. what cuts, if any, would you propose making in Dracut's town or school side budget to lower the tax burden on town residents?
Well, first of all, I would like to follow up that I have not been blessed with having any children, but the children of Dracut and Tyngsboro are my children. I have supported school building projects, even if it meant debt overrides, that she has not supported. So to say she supports children, again, look at the Dracut High School project. She did not support the high school project, but was glad to be there to cut the ribbon. In regards to cutting things in the budget, one of the things that I voted for at town meeting was to cut the stipends, the $2,000. And Ms. Richardson stood to get that $2,000. It may be a small amount, but it is a significant amount, a significant show of solidarity with the employees who are not getting pay raises. I am not privy to the rest of the budget, but certainly I believe that, I think that if she truly does not want an automatic tax, ask Jim Duggan to put together a budget this year that does not increase by 2.5%.
So the Prop 2.5 override is a big difference between myself and my opponent, because I do support the protection that Proposition 2.5 provides the taxpayers. When it comes to the school system, I in fact, as a selectman, personally was against the process. It was against the process of the funding, but I did in fact, as your selectman, put it in front of the town meeting so that the townspeople could vote, and I supported the will of the town in regards to both the projects to the high school and the Greater Lowell Tech. That's my job as a selectman. I put my personal opinions aside, and I vote on what's in the best interest of the town of Dracut, and I would do the same for Tyngsboro. To say that I was against the project is false. People tried to paint me and other reasonable people who asked questions about the project as child haters. That could not be further from the truth, as again, I said, my daughter was in 3rd grade at the Brookside. I love being part of the Brookside family. I'm very proud of them down there. They do a great job. Because we ask questions does not mean we dislike kids, nor are we anti-education. I had questions about the building, the funding process, as we just heard today, or rather last night at the selectmen meeting. The MSBA is now, in their infinite wisdom, decided, apparently in the fine print, to hold back the last payment of the MSBA money that was promised to the town of Dracut. That is going to cost us another bond. That's going to cost the town $11,000. I had every right to question the process and the sustainability of the high school project on the behalf of the taxpayers, and I did. And I took some heat for that, to say that I was anti-school, anti-children. It's incorrect. I was working on behalf of the taxpayers. I voted against it because it was another override to Proposition 2.5, which I think we should maintain. If we can't go under, we can't go under Proposition 2.5, and I've looked at many different ways to try to cut items in the budget to save taxpayers money. The reality is, without increase in local aid, we close the budget in the town of Dracut, and I know in Tyngsboro, within a very fine line, sometimes within $50. There is no wiggle room in our municipal budgets without an increase in local aid.
Ms. Moderator, just a quick follow-up. But she's charging that you were hypocritical for, you acknowledge voting against the override at the ballot box, correct?
Correct.
All right, and she's saying it's hypocritical for you then to stand, with oversized scissors and the ribbon. Can you respond to her charge on that?
Sure, and I'd be glad to. And I don't think it's hypocritical. I am the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I represent the will of the people of Dracut. The will of the people of Dracut were to be there to support that school. I put my personal aside. I had every right, again, to question, as their selectman, the process of the funding. And again, it was heard last night, a problem with the MSBA funding that is going to cost our town money. I had every right to question on behalf of the people sitting in this room, and I would do it again. That does not mean I'm against schools. I love that building, and the kids deserve that. But we have found, and through the wisdom and the blessing of the PBC, and I want to give them every credit they deserve, the Permanent Building Committee saved this town a ton of money by their oversight and their watch of that project. That project is could be a huge boondoggle, and we were blessed with the skills and the expertise of the people on the PBC and the school committee, my school committee colleagues. But that does not mean I'm against kids. I want to see those kids do well. We have incredible young people in this town. And to say that I'm anti-kid when I have a daughter at the Brookside School and have 2 sons that have graduated, myself graduated from Dracut High School, is absolutely false. And I would stand there with the scissors again. I support the will of the people of Dracut.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could I have a follow-up to that?
Sure.
I think it's hypocritical of her to continue to say she's the only mother, the only one that has children in the Dracut Public Schools. I have been president of the Dracut Scholarship Foundation. I have served the community and have supported athletics and all sorts of youth activities. I have helped to raise money for the performing arts. To say that because I am not blessed with children, she is the only mother in the race. I am a mother of all the children in Dracut and Tyngsboro.
Thank you. Where time is up, do you want to ask one more question, or do you want to let them do
Yeah, I
their?
think we could go just one more round.
All right,
of
one more
questions.
question, and so that would be, Jennifer, your question to Ms. Richardson. And this will be the final question before our closing statements.
All right, Ms. Richardson, you ran 2 years ago and for the seat and lost. What have you done since then that's going to change the voters' minds this time around?
Thank you for asking that. That is an important question. And so what I want to tell people is I have two more years' experience of being with you as your selectman, 2 more years of understanding what the problems are, the municipal stresses. And again, I think the increase in local aid is absolutely crucial to the survival of the municipal budgets, both in Dracut and Tyngsboro. I have 2 more years of understanding how town government works. I have 2 more years of acting on your board, on your behalf, and hearing and listening. And one of the things that I think I do very well for the people of Dracut, and I would do for Tyngsboro as well, is to listen to what residents have to say, because that is the biggest part of being a public servant, is absolutely listening to what is important for the people of Dracut. And I think I've done that for 2 years. I hope that people feel good about that. As your chairman, I've worked very hard every day to save money for taxpayers, both in small businesses and families. I think I've given you, with the search committee, a great town manager. That was a learning curve for me, a learning process as well, to figure out how to go through that hiring process to the benefit of the taxpayers of Dracut, and I think we did that successfully. I think this is a time when I'm ready to take my skill set, both as a clinician, as a mother, as a therapist, as your chairman of your board of selectmen, and bring that to Beacon Hill, and in fact work and fight for you on Beacon Hill. I think I have an opportunity here to be part of the reform team with Charlie Baker, to go down there and clean up Beacon Hill on your behalf, and I hope for the opportunity to do that for all of you.
With all due respect, I think she needs another 2 years to practice. It took 4 years to get a town manager. The Board of Selectmen, under her leadership, has failed. When I talk about minutes of meetings, people need to know these are meetings. 40 meetings in the last 5 years have not had any legal transcription. If you went in looking for records of a special permit or so forth, there were no transcriptions of these documents. And I would like to ask Ms. Richardson, why, if you're so in favor of accountability, transparency, and honest discussion, why we heard nothing about the Employee Healthcare Trust Fund being underfunded by the tune of $5.2 million in your time? Why are we paying $600,000, making up out of the school budget, to pay back the employees because we underfunded $1 million a year for 5 years, and there's been no discussion of that, no transparency?
Okay. So in fact, that's not correct. There has been transparency, there has been discussion about that, and the board actually has addressed that. We've addressed the minutes issue. Let me clarify by saying it was 28 meetings. We're down to less than 20 that need to be transcribed. So it is not 40, that's an incorrect number. They are being transcribed, everything is on videotape. There is nothing to hide. This was an issue that was dealt with, like I said, when it was brought to our attention, we dealt with it, we took responsibility, it's been addressed. In regards to the insurance, that's also been addressed to the satisfaction of the unions that were involved. Again, this has very little to do with changing the direction of the state. What I want to tell you is, as the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, we've taken responsibility for that, we've worked on those things, we've addressed those issues and resolved them to the satisfaction of all parties, including the unions. So that has very little to do with the direction of the state. What I want to do is go down there to Beacon Hill and look at things like putting the committee votes online. A lot of the work that's done in Beacon Hill is done in committees. There is no reason why we as taxpayers have no ability to look at committee votes online. There is no reason why we can not do away with the consolidated amendment process. The consolidated amendment process is painful, and it hurts taxpayers, it hurts small business and families by not giving the legislators time to read the individual amendments.
Time.
Ms. Moderator, Colleen, you're a little sneaky there. You got a question in, so we'll allow Cathy to ask one question of you, and then we'll go straight to closing statements. Cathy, do you have a question for Colleen?
So the question, I guess, is that and I wasn't prepared actually to do that. 'cause
No, I know, but I'm
we're
just
gonna
giving
be
you a
able to
fair
do
opportunity.
that.
Yes.
But one of the questions I want to ask, and I think most of the taxpayers that I've listened to, is that if the experience has been so helpful, Colleen, then why again are we looking at local aid numbers that are so abysmal? Why is it that the experience has not remedied the situations at municipal levels when I have a board of selectmen that has to decide how in heaven's name we're going to be able to take care of the op-eds that we're required, the state mandates that are brought down from the state, unfunded mandates that come down repeatedly from the state. How are we supposed to do that on a municipal level with no increase in local aid?
Again, Ms. Richardson is trying to simplify it to local aid being the general government aid. It does not include just that. It includes Chapter 70, which has increased tremendously. We receive a very large portion of our budget, more than many other communities receive. And we are taking steps in this budget to look at the Foundation Budget Review Commission. And I'm hoping that Dracut and Tyngsboro don't lose money by that, because there are most of the people complaining about the formula in Boston are those who are not getting the 15% that they're required. Again, Chapter 90, we provide that money. The situation in Tyngsboro is they don't have all these accepted streets. They have to take their steps first and accept the streets before they're counted towards the situation until the formula. But the formula, I am delivering things like the Tyngsboro Council on Aging Meals on Wheels. Last summer, they stopped it. And they said, we can't do that anymore. We can't have anybody go there. We had to cut a truck. I got involved, and I worked with the people in Boston, and I got it resolved. I got it so that they don't have to stay home to get the meal or go to Dracut to get the meal. They get the meals. We were able to do that. We've been able, like I said, to get the SBAV situation in Tyngsboro resolved. We continue to fund the CPA. We saw the opening of the old town hall in Dracut. We've seen many things happen in this community, and we are fighting. There are formulas involved, and it has nothing to do with experience on those formulas, but we are looking at that formula. And you know, the fact of the matter is, I'm doing my job. I don't see the minutes of the meetings. It's funny you want everything online for the state, but you can't get your job done.
Well,
All right,
that's
we're
not
gonna
true. So
stop
thank
it now, and we're going to start with our closing statement, starting with you, Ms. Richardson. And you have 2 minutes.
So I want to say thank you to everyone. It has been an honor and a privilege to be your selectman, your chairman of the board of selectmen. It has been an honor and a privilege to be a resident of Dracut for the bulk of my life. I want to tell you I'm very proud of all of my children. I'm proud of my family, and I want to thank all of you who are here to support what I think is the new direction for the town of Dracut. So thank you everyone for watching. We've heard a lot of talk here tonight. The truth is, my opponent has a 20-year history of raising taxes, flip-flopping, and trying to distract from her records. The state budget has skyrocketed $10 billion in the last 8 years, and my opponent has been part of the spending problem. We don't have a revenue problem in the State House, we have a spending problem. I'm running for state representative because Dracut and Tyngsboro deserve better. We deserve better than billion-dollar tax increases. We deserve better than political scandals and corruption that emanate from the State House every day. We deserve better than business as usual. And we deserve better than what we've seen here tonight. We deserve better. As your state representative, I'll work to control spending and taxes, stop the government overreach, as we saw in the Justina Pelletier case, eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, and I will stand with Shauna O'Connell in her efforts to clean that up, support law enforcement, public safety, and veterans, and make sure our seniors are well cared for. I will be proud to be part of the reform team and will stand with Charlie Baker to help clean up Beacon Hill. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 4th. Thank you for coming, thank you for your support, and God bless America.
And Representative Garrett.
Thank you. I want to thank the Lowell Sun for having this with Jennifer and Chris, thank you, and Mary Jo, thank you. Of course, Harvey Gagnon, who is always here at the Harmony Hall, keeping everything moving. I want to thank everybody who came down and to root for either one of us. Certainly, it's an important election. Every time I'm up for re-election, I take this very seriously. I love my job. I love the people of this district. I work hard for them. I listen to them, and I deliver for them. We're getting the job done. And because of that, I have been endorsed. You don't normally see this, but I've been endorsed by Citizens for Limited Taxation, AFL-CIO, SEIU, and small businesses. Those organizations usually don't agree on one candidate. They agree on me because I'm reasonable, I'm respectful, I look at every single issue to the best of my ability on how it's going to deal with my district. I am not someone who's going to follow party line, who's going to let the party buy a seat for me. I am going to make sure that the people of this district, who are working class people, will not be bought out by the millionaires like Chris Egan and Rick Green, who are trying to buy the seat for the Republican Party. We work hard in this district, the people of this district work hard, and they deserve better than the deceit and deception that has gone on with the mailings over $17,000. I thank you for your support over the last 20 years. You have my commitment that I will continue to work 100% every single day on your behalf, on behalf of your family, your children, the veterans, and the seniors of this district. And I thank you for your support and thank you for coming tonight. God bless America.
That closes our debate for this evening. Thank you to the Lowell Sun and thank you for the town of Dracut and the volunteers here at the Harmony Hall, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.